I always wanted to make a build for Enzo when he came out, but I didn't really have the time and chance to make one until now because there is a boss in the game that will tear your HP to the ground. You would get a lot of debuffs and the boss will just obliterate your health no matter how much health you have. And so by the build that I'm using right now, it would basically remove all of the mechanics for that boss. So I mainly made this build for the Death Stalker. That's the boss I am talking about. But you can use this build in any other boss you like. So you're going to deal tons of damage with the Enduring Legacy. That's the main weapon we're using for this build. And you're also going to be helping your teammates gain increase in damage because of our abilities. And we're also going to be getting 28,000 plus shields. And we're also going to be getting infinite ammo. So I hope you guys enjoy the build and let's get right into it. So here are the modules you would need for Enzo. Let's start with the Transcendent module. You are first going to need this Transcendent module called Supply Firearm Enhancer. If you don't know what it does, it basically summons this little machine on the floor, and whenever you touch it with your character, it would grant you weak point damage and firearm critical hit rate. So what I'm going to do is activate my first ability because that really overrides it. So I activate it, and as we can see here on my buff, when I go around it, I will not get the buff. So all you would have to do is just run to it. You'll see that little icon here, and in order for the buff to be removed, you can either shoot until you run out of ammo, which is you by reloading, as what you see here. I'm going to reload. 3, 2, 1, boom, it's gone. And now let me reproc it again. And another way to remove it is by you swapping your weapon. As what you see here, I swapped it and the buff is gone. So my critical hit rate just by default is 33%, and the weak point damage is 1.1 times multiplier. So if I were to activate it and get the buff again, I would inspect my character, and now it went from a 30-something% all the way to an 82%. So that is a pretty big buff for the critical hit rate, and it went up a little bit for the weak point, but mainly for me, I wanted to get it for the critical hit rate. So you can keep on getting critical hits very often when spamming the Enduring Legacy, and as what you're seeing here for the rounds in the mag, I have 171. And we can also stack the critical hit rate even further by using the fourth ability, which is called Perfect Support. Whenever you activate this, it would summon this little drone on your shoulder, and it would shoot enemies in front of you, but that's not the main important part. The main one is by you giving this buff called Perfect Support. It will give you increased firearm attack, which is 20%, increase in critical hit rate, which is another 20%, and you would also reload a bit quicker, which will give you plus 10%. And this will also apply to your allies around you. So as what you're seeing here, I have the first buff. Let me activate the fourth ability, and let's go to our character to see how much critical hit we would get, which is a 92%. That is a lot, actually. So again, we are mostly using this ability just to give us that increased critical hit rate, firearm attack, and reload modifier. And the next main ability is for our survivability, and this one is called Enhanced Combat Suit, because in this build, we are mostly prioritizing in our shields, not our HP, but we are using modules that will increase our shield capacity. So for this ability, all it will do is that it would regain your shield. The second ability doesn't even matter for this build, but all it does is that you press your button and it summons a explosive drone that hits targets, but we're mostly using 1, 4, and 3. And for the DPS loadout or the DPS method to activate your abilities, it's actually 1, 4, and 3. For the sub module, you can choose any sub module you like, but for me, in my personal opinion, I would like to go for the grappled long distance maneuvering, just to give me like 2 extra shots for the grapple onto objects even further. So now let's head to the shield modules. We're going to need to use 3 modules. The first one is increased shields. This one would give us plus 151.9% max shields, because we're going to need to use this other module called Overwhelming Shield. Here's what it does. It would actually make your HP onto 1 hit, but it would increase your max shield up to 26.8% based on your max HP. So our goal for this build is to have as much health as possible to give us even more shields. So the more health we have, the more shields we're going to be getting. And we can also get even more shields with other buffs as well. And we are using the inversion reinforcement buffs that will give us even more shields. This one is just by killing enemies, which will give us more HP whenever we get kills. So this is another way to give us even more shields and HP. And the last module for the shields I put is HP conversion. With HP conversion, it would give us 158% more max shield, but it will decrease our max HP. But we do have other modules that would compensate for the minus 52.4% HP. All we did was just increase our max shield so we can survive longer. The next two modules are going to be based on our HP. So the first one I chose to put is Stim Accelerant. If you don't know what this does, it basically gives you more HP but cancels out your max MP by minus 15%. So here's our shields because we have this module. So I'm going to activate my third ability, and instead of having like less HP or shields, we're going to be having more shields. Right now, we have currently 16,000 shields, but we can actually boost it up even further by using this module, which will increase our HP even further by 218.5%. So before we had 16K, let me activate my third ability now, and that's going to go all the way up to 26 shields, or should I say 26,000 shield. So these are the only two modules that will boost up your shield gains. So be sure to put on modules that have increased in HP. Now let's head to the cooldowns and durations for your abilities. The first one I chose to put is MP conversion. This will decrease our skill cooldown and also our max MP, but I am using a external component on the sensor that has a yellow max MP, so that would help us even further to kind of compensate for the minus MP for the max MP conversion. And to decrease our cooldown even further, I went for Nimble Fingers to decrease our cooldown by 25%. So currently for our first ability is 6 seconds, for our fourth ability is 27 seconds, and for our third ability is 9 seconds. And the next module I wanted to put was skill extension, mainly for our fourth ability, because we want to use our fourth ability as long as possible to give us that damage buff. So now it's going to last up to 10.9 seconds whenever we activate it. And also the fourth ability, again, we're going to need to be near our teammates. So by having this other module called Amplification Control, it would one, increase our skill range, and it would also increase our max shield gains. So we could be able to hold more shields, and we can be as far away as possible to our teammates when we use our fourth ability. And the last module you're going to want to put is Multi-Talented. If you don't know what Multi-Talented does, whenever we activate our Dimension active skill, it will decrease our cooldowns by minus 20.5% for 5 seconds. So the Dimension skills are towards our second ability and our third ability. We're mainly going to be using our third ability. I'll show you how to use your abilities efficiently if you want to take full advantage of decreasing your cooldown. And with our two abilities, which is our first ability and our fourth ability, they are singular. So whenever we activate our singular active skill, all attribute damage is plus 30% for 5 seconds, but it's only applied to you. And for the attribute damage, it could be like chill, toxic, fire, etc. So in this case, we are using fire for the Enduring Legacy, just to, of course, if you want to activate that certain part of that module, just activate either your first or fourth ability to give you even more fire damage for the Enduring Legacy. Let me show you the efficient way to use all of this whenever you're dealing with a Colossus or just doing anything in general. So what you're going to want to do is activate your first ability and then activate your fourth ability very quickly. And then once that buff runs out, you can activate your third ability to decrease the cooldown for your fourth ability. Rinse and repeat. So you're going to have to activate your first and fourth ability pretty quickly. And then once that buff runs out for that Dimension skill, you can use your third ability to decrease the cooldown for your fourth ability. So let me show you again. You would activate your first ability and then your fourth ability, and then wait for your buff to run out for the singular buff. And then last but not least, activate your third ability to decrease the cooldown for your fourth ability. Simple as that. So if you guys are curious to know what inversion reinforcement I am using for this build, I chose to go for fire focus rounds for our Enduring Legacy, just to give us a bit more damage for our firearm attack. And to give us even more shields, I went for this one, just getting kills that gives you more shields. And last but not least, I went for this one, selective neural stimulation, just to give us even more MP. And I did max out the season tree, so this one increases my skill effect range whenever we use our skills. This one I chose to put it for our fourth ability, because the more stacks, the more range we're going to be getting, which will help with our fourth ability. And with our third ability, it didn't really help us because we're using this build for the Death Stalker, so removing debuffs wouldn't even matter because we just have shields, not HP. but I just wanted to max it out. So let me show you guys what I was using for the Enduring Legacy for the modules. For the first one, I went for Rifle Reinforcement just to increase our damage even further by 32%. The next two is for critical hit rate and damage, which is better concentration and better insight, or increase in critical hit rate and critical hit damage. The next one, which is concentration priority, which will increase our critical hit damage by a boatload by 120%, but sadly, you'll reload slower. The next one I chose to put is Insight Focus to give us a little bit more critical hit rate and critical hit damage. But if you choose not to put that, I noticed using this new one called Heat Circulation. Upon inflicting burn effect, increases the fire attack by 89.6% for 5 seconds. Because we are going to be inflicting fire, because that is the main perk for the Enduring Legacy. So if you don't know what it does or the unique ability, whenever we hit a target, it will increase our status effect trigger rate corresponding to the element. So it can be either fire, chill, electric, or toxic. So for us, it is fire. So whenever we inflict fire, it would increase our firearm attack by 11%. And for the traits for the Enduring Legacy, I went for firearm critical hit rate, bonus firearm attack to Colossus, and firearm critical hit damage. I sadly got weak point damage, but I would recommend going for more firearm attack. But for now, I just have weak point. So again, you can go for either Heat Circulation or you can go for Insight Focus. But for me, I would like to go for Insight Focus for a little bit more critical hit rate and damage. The next one, go for Expand Weapon Charge, which will give us even more ammo in the magazine. You're also going to want to increase your fire rate even further for the Enduring Legacy to activate this other special mod, which is called the Sharp Precision Shot. So it would give us minus 20 fire rate. It's a good thing we have fire rate up. Whenever we hold on the trigger, it would give us plus 4 fire rate, minus 5 recoil, plus 6 firearm attack every 0.5 seconds up to 10 stacks. But if you don't want to use a Sharp Precision Shot, you could also go for Mental Focus. That would give you minus 10 fire rate. And whenever you just fire the weapon while holding it down on the trigger, it would give you plus 1 firearm attack for 2 seconds up to 150 stacks. But it would remove it when reloading or changing the firearm. But in my personal opinion, I would like using Sharp Precision Shot to give us more fire rate and more firearm attack. So let me show you. I'm going to hold down on the trigger and you see that buff constantly going all the way up to the maximum of 10. Once it reaches 10, as what you're seeing for my ammo, it is going down extremely quickly. So that is why I chose to put that module. The last two modules I chose to go for is Fire Enhancement, just to give us even more fire attack to the Enduring Legacy, because that is what it basically does, because it's fire. And the last one is Action and Reaction. Increases our firearm attack by 61%, but gives us plus 20 recoil. So what's cool about this build is that for the reactor, you don't really need to pay attention to the optimization cooldown and the skill power boost, because this build is mainly prioritizing in our weapon damage. So all you would have to pay attention to is the traits on the bottom. For me, I would like to go for skill cooldown and skill duration up for our abilities. So by having them both yellow, it would help you with the build even further. But I just want to go for the yellow skill cooldown first, because that is your main priority. And then your second priority could be like either skill effect range or skill duration up. Either of the two would work, but I currently have this. And for the external components, I went for components that have max HP, which is the maximum of 646. And for this one in particular, for the auxiliary, it has a max HP of 814. I do believe you can get a yellow version, which has 900 max HP, but I've been farming that nonstop and this is the highest I got, so I went for that. And for the second trait for the auxiliary, I do recommend going for MP recovery out of combat. I also think this does have MP recovery in combat. Don't quote me on that, but if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But I would recommend just going for MP recovery out of combat. For the sensor, again, find any sensor that has max HP, which is 646, and go for yellow max MP. And for the second sensor, I do recommend going for a sensor that has MP recovery in combat. This is just an example of what you're seeing here on the yellow thing. So be sure it has MP recovery in combat on that sensor. And for the memory, again, go for max HP, and you can go for defense and MP recovery modifier. I do have it here. I should actually swap to this actually, because that MP recovery modifier would actually help. So that's what I'm going to do. There you go. MP recovery modifier, because this is another set of the annihilation. So defense and MP recovery modifier. I went for the Slayer processor, and then for the traits, go for max shield. And for the second trait, it don't really matter what you're using as long as you have max shield, but you can choose any alike for the second trait for the Slayer processor. I also do want to mention, you don't really have to use the Enduring Legacy for this build. You can choose any weapon you like as your heart desires. This is mainly a support build, so change your weapon as you please. But for me, I really had fun using the Enduring Legacy, so that's why I put it. If you guys did enjoy this build, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit that like and sub button. If you'd like to see any other builds for any other Descendants in the game, feel free to let me know in the comments and I'll make a build for you.